The sea stretched endlessly beneath a pale morning sky as the Mariana cruised out of the port, its gleaming white hull cutting through the calm turquoise waters. A vessel built for luxury and escape. It promised relaxation, adventure, and the kind of memories most people only dreamed of. For Daniel and Elena Thompson, this voyage was supposed to be just that, a chance to celebrate their 15th wedding anniversary and rekindle a love that felt like it was slipping through their fingers. Daniel stood on the deck, his hands gripping the railing, eyes tracing the horizon. The wind tugged at his dark hair, but his mind was somewhere else, restless and troubled. Behind him, Elena approached quietly. Her smile was warm, but there was a flicker of something Daniel couldn't quite place. She was beautiful, still, with chestnut hair cascading in waves and eyes that had once held nothing but adoration for him. Today, however, those eyes darted nervously toward the ship's towering bridge. "Ready for this adventure?" Elena asked softly, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. Daniel forced a smile. "Yeah, it's a chance to start fresh, isn't it?" Elena nodded, but didn't meet his gaze. "Before we begin, like this video and comment where you are watching from. Your support helps us bring more intriguing stories. Now let's begin." From the moment they boarded, something between them was off. The grand lobby sparkled with crystal chandeliers, marble floors, and a sense of opulence that made Daniel feel out of place. Elena was captivated by it all, her laughter light as she danced between the crowds, charming the staff and fellow passengers. But Daniel's smile faded whenever she slipped away, whispering into her phone or disappearing behind closed doors. He found himself standing alone more often than not, nursing his growing doubts. That afternoon, while exploring the ship's sun deck, Daniel caught sight of Captain Adrian Cole, a man whose very presence seemed to command the ship. Tall, with perfectly tailored uniforms and a confident smile, Adrian moved through the crew like a shadow. Elena's gaze followed him too often for Daniel's comfort. Captain Cole had a reputation, not just as a skilled navigator, but as a man who enjoyed the finer things on board, the smiles of women, the admiration of guests. It wasn't long before Daniel noticed the subtle glances exchanged between Elena and the captain, the way her eyes lingered on him a moment too long, the faint flush on her cheeks when Adrian passed by. One evening, at the ship's elegant gala dinner, Daniel watched helplessly as Elena laughed and twirled beneath the chandeliers, her arm lightly touching Adrian's. A cold knot formed in his stomach. Later, alone in their cabin, Daniel confronted her. "Elena, what's going on? You're not yourself." She looked away, biting her lip. "It's nothing, Daniel. You're just being paranoid." But Daniel wasn't convinced. The next morning, Daniel's suspicions were confirmed in the most unexpected way. He picked up Elena's phone left carelessly on the bedside table. His eyes scanned a string of messages. One stood out. "Meet me tonight by the observation deck. Don't tell Daniel." No sender, no signature. His hands trembled as he read it again. Was Elena having an affair? With whom? The questions churned violently inside him, feeding a growing storm of jealousy and betrayal. He tried to keep calm, to rationalize, but every time Elena smiled at him, Daniel saw only the shadow of a secret. That night, after the ship's formal dinner and the fading laughter of passengers, Daniel lay awake, the message burning in his mind. The ship was mostly quiet, the gentle rocking underfoot the only sound. Suddenly, footsteps outside their cabin door. Daniel slipped out of bed and quietly opened the door. Elena was there, in her silk robe, a small suitcase in hand. She looked startled to see him. "What are you doing up?" Daniel's voice was barely a whisper. "I saw the message. Who are you meeting?" She hesitated, then said, "It's not what you think." But Daniel's heart was pounding. Before he could speak again, Elena pulled the door closed. He felt a surge of desperation and followed her down the dimly lit corridors, past the empty lounges and shuttered windows, until she reached the observation deck, a glass-walled room with panoramic views of the ocean. Elena paused, glanced nervously around, and stepped inside. Daniel hid behind a pillar, his breath shallow. Minutes passed. Then, the door to the observation deck slid open. Elena wasn't alone. Adrian Cole, the captain, emerged from the shadows. They spoke quietly, but Daniel caught glimpses of their conversation, whispered words and stolen touches. The captain took Elena's hand, and she smiled, a real, genuine smile that Daniel hadn't seen in months. Betrayal crashed down on him like a wave. In that moment, Daniel knew nothing would ever be the same. The shrill wail of the emergency alarms shattered the night's eerie calm aboard the Mariana. Red emergency lights cast sinister shadows across the gleaming observation deck, reflecting in the glass walls like flickering ghosts. Daniel Thompson's heart thundered in his chest as the doors locked tight behind him, sealing him inside with Elena and Captain Adrian Cole. "Stay calm." Adrian's voice was smooth but cold, a stark contrast to the chaos around them. "We'll sort this out." Elena's hand trembled in Adrian's, her earlier confidence gone. Daniel's mind reeled. What had started as suspicion had now escalated to something he couldn't yet grasp. But one thing was clear. The captain was involved in whatever was happening, and Elena was caught in the middle. In the following days, the Mariana sailed on, but the atmosphere was heavy with unease. Daniel's suspicions didn't fade. If anything, they grew more vivid. Elena's behavior changed. She became distant, avoiding his questions and disappearing for hours at a time. Daniel's attempts to confront her ended with cold refusals or vague reassurances. "It's nothing, Daniel," she would say, eyes downcast. But Daniel's gut told him otherwise. The crew's staff whispered among themselves. Passengers exchanged curious glances. Rumors began to swirl quietly about a secret affair between Elena and the ship's charismatic captain. One evening, Daniel found himself in the ship's lounge, nursing a drink alone. The dim lighting and soft jazz music did little to ease his turmoil. A man approached and took a seat beside him. "I'm Mark," he said, offering a tired smile. "I couldn't help but notice rough patch." Daniel hesitated, but found himself sharing the story, the cryptic message, the late-night meeting, Elena's distance. Mark nodded knowingly. "Captain Cole has a reputation. Not the first woman he's charmed on this ship." Daniel's anger flared. "What should I do?" Mark shrugged. "Be careful. People like that don't like being watched." Fueled by Mark's words and his own desperate need for answers, Daniel sought out Captain Cole the next morning. The captain was on the bridge, overseeing the ship's navigation with practiced ease. "Captain Cole," Daniel said, forcing calm into his voice. "I need to talk." Adrian turned, his charismatic smile in place. "Of course, Mr. Thompson. What can I do for you?" Daniel's eyes bore into him. "Is there something going on between you and my wife?" The captain's smile faltered for a moment. Then he shrugged. "I'm a professional, Mr. Thompson. Any rumors are just that." Daniel's fists clenched. "I don't believe you." Adrian's eyes darkened. "Watch yourself, Daniel. This ship isn't as safe as you think." The weeks that followed pushed Daniel to the edge. Elena's absences became longer and more frequent. She no longer responded to his calls or messages. The isolation of the open ocean seemed to amplify his paranoia and despair. Daniel's nights were restless, haunted by vivid nightmares of betrayal and violence. He started hearing whispers outside his cabin, shadowy figures moving in the corridors. Every glance between Elena and Adrian felt like a knife twisting deeper. His friends on the cruise urged him to seek help, but Daniel withdrew, consumed by a dark obsession. One morning, Daniel found an envelope slipped under his cabin door. Inside was a single note written in shaky handwriting. "Stop looking, or you'll regret it." Fear gripped him, but it only made him more determined. Who was watching him, and why warn him? That night, the ship seemed different, colder, more hostile. Elena still hadn't returned. Daniel's calls to the crew were met with vague answers and closed doors. Hours stretched into a nightmare. Daniel scoured the ship, searching every lounge, hallway, and deck. Panic gnawed at him. Then, a piercing scream echoed from the lower decks. Rushing toward the sound, Daniel found the area cordoned off by crew members. Elena was missing. Rumors exploded. Had she fallen overboard? Was she hiding? Had something worse happened? Daniel's world spun out of control. He felt powerless, isolated, drowning in uncertainty. The Mariana was now slicing through colder waters as it sailed toward the next port. The once vibrant atmosphere aboard the cruise ship had turned somber. Whispers of Elena's disappearance and Daniel's spiraling desperation spread through the passengers and crew like wildfire. Daniel Thompson sat alone in the ship's dimly lit library, the walls lined with books that seemed to close in on him. The phone call from a mysterious voice haunted him, its warning echoing in his mind. Let it go, or face the consequences. But how could he? His wife was missing, and the answers lay somewhere deep inside the ship's secrets. The ship's captain, Adrian Cole, had become an elusive figure in the days following Elena's disappearance. Officially, he was cooperating with the authorities and the cruise line security team. Unofficially, Daniel sensed something darker lurking beneath his polished exterior. Detective Lisa Monroe, a sharp, no-nonsense investigator assigned to the case, arrived at the Mariana along with a small team. With short-cropped blonde hair and piercing gray eyes, Monroe had a reputation for cutting through lies and getting to the heart of the truth. She wasted no time. "Mr. Thompson, I understand this is difficult," Monroe said, sitting across from Daniel in a cramped interview room. "But I need to know everything. Your relationship with your wife, her behavior, and any possible motives for her disappearance." Daniel's voice cracked as he recounted the strange messages, Elena's growing distance, and the suspicious relationship with Captain Cole. Monroe's gaze hardened. "We'll be reviewing ship logs, passenger interviews, and security footage. Someone knows more than they're saying." As the investigation unfolded, whispers of Elena's affair with Adrian Cole began to solidify. Anonymous passengers came forward with stories of late-night meetings and secret rendezvous on the observation deck and in hidden corridors. But then something unexpected surfaced. Elena had not just been seeing the captain. Security footage revealed a shadowy figure entering Elena's cabin late one night. A figure that was neither Daniel nor Adrian. Daniel's heart pounded. Who else was involved? Determined to find answers, Daniel and Detective Monroe reviewed the footage frame by frame. The figure was cloaked in darkness, face obscured by a hood, but there was something familiar about the way they moved. Then a breakthrough. Monroe recognized the code. It was the uniform of a senior crew member, Lucas Brandt, the ship's chief engineer, a man respected for his technical skill, but known to have a volatile temper. Confronted with the footage, Brandt denied any involvement, but his eyes betrayed him. Daniel felt the pieces slipping into place, a tangled web of deception, jealousy, and dangerous secrets. Lucas Brandt had been quietly obsessed with Elena for months, nursing a silent grudge against Captain Cole, whose charm and authority overshadowed the engineer's more reserved presence. One night, Brandt's jealousy boiled over. According to a crew member who finally broke their silence, Brandt confronted Elena near the engine room. The argument grew heated, voices echoing through the metal corridors. "I told you to stay away," Brandt had said, fists clenched. Elena had refused to back down. The confrontation ended with a chilling threat. Meanwhile, Daniel's own search led him to Elena's belongings, a hidden letter in her luggage, addressed to him but never sent. In it, Elena confessed to a desperate secret. She had been blackmailed by someone on board, threatened with exposure of a past she desperately wanted to keep hidden. She begged Daniel to forgive her, to understand that the affair wasn't about love, but survival. Daniel's world twisted again. Elena was not the unfaithful wife he had imagined, but a woman trapped in a nightmare. With this new knowledge, Daniel and Monroe dug deeper into the ship's past and crew records. Rumors emerged of illicit dealings, smuggling, and a dangerous undercurrent of crime hidden beneath the cruiser's polished veneer. Lucas Brandt's name appeared repeatedly in reports of unexplained incidents, fires in the engine room, missing cargo, and suspicious financial transactions. Was the ship a front for something far more sinister? The investigation was racing against time. Daniel's hope of finding Elena alive was fading as clues pointed toward a shadowy conspiracy that might involve murder. Then, A late-night call from Monroe changed everything. "We found something in the ship's maintenance tunnels," she said urgently. "You need to come down here." Daniel's pulse quickened. The tunnels were a maze beneath the ship's gleaming decks, dark, claustrophobic, and dangerous. Together, they descended into the bowels of the Mariana. After navigating the labyrinth of pipes and cables, they stumbled upon a hidden room, a small chamber lined with monitors and surveillance equipment. Screens flickered with images from all corners of the ship. Among them, Daniel saw a chilling sight: Elena, struggling with someone in a dimly lit corridor. It was Lucas Brandt. The footage showed the struggle escalating, ending abruptly in darkness. Daniel's breath caught. The cold, stale air of the maintenance tunnels pressed against Daniel Thompson's chest as he crouched beside Detective Lisa Monroe. Their breath echoed in the dim, cramped space, and the low hum of the ship's engines vibrated through the steel walls. The flickering glow from the bank of surveillance monitors cast eerie shadows, turning their surroundings into a chamber of secrets. Outside the hidden room, footsteps pounded closer, urgent, heavy, and growing louder by the second. Daniel's heart pounded in his ears, every second stretching into an eternity. "We're not going to get out the way we came," Monroe whispered, her voice steady but tense. "We need another plan." Their backs pressed against the cold metal wall. Daniel's mind raced. The labyrinth beneath the Mariana was a maze he barely understood, and now armed men were hunting them. The flashing images on the screens showed Elena's desperate struggle with Lucas Brandt, and something worse, a shadowy figure that had intervened. "Who's that?" Daniel asked, his voice barely a whisper. Monroe's eyes narrowed. "Someone darker than Brandt. Someone who's been pulling strings behind the scenes." A sudden noise, the clatter of a dropped tool or a boot against metal, made them both freeze. Daniel swallowed hard. "Can you reach security from here?" he asked. Monroe shook her head. "The system's been compromised. Whoever set this up doesn't want anyone outside knowing what's happening down here." Daniel's gaze fixed on the grainy footage again. Elena, once so composed and distant, was now fighting for her life. The desperation in her eyes pierced through the grainy image, her movements frantic but fierce. The person helping Brandt subdue her was not the cold, calculating Captain Adrian Cole, but someone else. Why would Elena fight Lucas? What was she trying to protect? Daniel muttered, pain twisting inside him. Monroe's expression hardened. "Because this isn't just about an affair or jealousy. Elena knew something worth killing for." Daniel's thoughts turned inward. The wife he thought he knew, the woman who had grown distant, secretive, and terrified, had been caught in a web of danger far beyond infidelity. His anger and betrayal were replaced with confusion, fear, and guilt. Had he been blind to her suffering? Had his own suspicions driven her deeper into the shadows? His hands clenched into fists, the weight of regret crushing him. Suddenly, Monroe's tablet beeped. A message flashed. "Crew member Julia reports unusual activity near the aft lifeboats. Possible clue." "Julia," Monroe said, standing quickly. "She's a young stewardess who's been quietly watching the crew. If anyone can help us, it's her." Daniel struggled to keep up as they moved through narrow service corridors, adrenaline sharpening his senses. Every creak, every whisper of movement set his nerves on edge. They found Julia near the lifeboat station, her face pale but determined. She pulled Daniel aside. "I've been watching Lucas and a few others. They've been meeting in secret, talking about shipments. Illegal cargo hidden in the ship's lower holds." Daniel's stomach churned. "Shipments? What kind of shipments?" Julia shook her head. "I don't know exactly, but it's dangerous. And Elena found out. That's why she was scared. That's why she disappeared." Monroe's eyes flashed with urgency. "We need to find those holds, and fast." Guided by Julia, Daniel and Monroe descended deeper into the Mariana's belly. The air grew heavier, thick with the scent of oil and rust. The narrow passages twisted into shadowy tunnels, and the faint hum of the ship's engines seemed like a distant heartbeat. Every step felt like stepping closer to a trap. Suddenly, they heard voices. hushed but tense from a nearby chamber. Monroe gestured to stay silent. Peering around the corner, Daniel saw Lucas Brandt and another figure, tall, cloaked in black, with cold, calculating eyes that gleamed even in the low light. Captain Adrian Cole, the man behind the hidden struggles, the man who had warned Daniel to watch himself. Lucas spoke harshly. "The shipment leaves at dawn. We can't afford any leaks." The girl was a liability. Adrian's voice was cold, almost amused. She should have known better than to get involved. Daniel's blood ran cold. Monroe gripped Daniel's arm. "We need to get this on record." Daniel felt a surge of rage. For months, the man who commanded the ship had been orchestrating a dark conspiracy, using Elena, threatening her, and now silencing her. He thought of Elena's letter, her desperate plea for forgiveness, and realized the full horror of what she endured. Suddenly, the ship's alarms blared, a piercing, urgent wail that shattered the tense silence. The men turned toward the noise, shouting orders. Chaos erupted. Daniel, Monroe, and Julia sprinted through the maze of tunnels, the sound of pursuit close behind. Heart pounding. Daniel's legs burned as adrenaline fueled their frantic escape. Just as they rounded a corner, Julia stumbled, catching herself on the wall. "Go on without me," she gasped. "No way," Daniel said fiercely, helping her up. They reached a service elevator and hit the call button frantically. The door slid open, and they squeezed inside just as armed men appeared at the tunnel entrance. The elevator jolted downward, shaking violently. Daniel looked at Monroe. "We're not safe yet." Monroe nodded grimly. "We're closer than ever, but the worst is still ahead." The elevator doors closed behind Daniel, Detective Monroe, and Julia, sealing them inside the cold metal box as it descended deeper into the Mariana. The muffled sounds of the pursuit faded slowly, but the tension inside the small space was suffocating. Daniel's heart hammered against his ribs. The haunting words echoed in his mind. "Elena is alive, but if you want to see her again, you'll have to come to the bottom and play by our rules." What rules? And who was behind this twisted game? The elevator shuddered to a halt, and the door slid open to reveal a cavernous cargo hold dimly lit by flickering overhead lamps. Pallets of crates and containers stretched endlessly into the darkness. Monroe flicked on her flashlight, its beam cutting through the gloom. "Stay close," she whispered. Julia's face was pale but resolute. "This is where they store the shipments, the illegal ones. Smuggled goods hidden beneath the guise of luxury cruises." Daniel's stomach twisted. Elena had been caught in something far beyond an affair, caught in a criminal network he barely understood. As they advanced through the maze of crates, Monroe's flashlight illuminated a scrawled message on a shipping container door. "Trust no one, not even those closest to you." Daniel stopped, reading the words over and over. "Who left this?" he muttered. "Was it Elena?" Julia nodded. She wanted someone to find her. Monroe scanned the area carefully. "We need to find a way to trace these shipments and find out who's controlling this operation." Suddenly, from behind a stack of crates, a shadow moved. Daniel raised his voice. "Who's there?" A man stepped forward, a tall, wiry figure with eyes sharp as a hawk's. He wore a crew uniform, but his name tag was smudged. "I'm Marcus," he said quietly. "I'm on your side." Monroe looked skeptical. "Why should we trust you?" Marcus's gaze hardened. "Because I helped Elena. She saved my sister from this mess." Daniel eyed Marcus carefully, unsure whether this new player was an ally or another danger. Marcus led them to a secured area containing crates stamped with foreign markings and strange symbols. He explained the network ran smuggling operations. Exotic animals, drugs, and stolen artifacts moved under the radar of international law enforcement. "And Elena?" Daniel asked. "She uncovered their plan to move a shipment off the coast without detection," Marcus replied. "They silenced her to protect themselves." Monroe's face tightened. So, the affair was a cover-up to keep her close, to control her. While Marcus spoke, Daniel's phone buzzed. He pulled it out, revealing a text message from an unknown number. "Stop digging, or you'll be next." His hands trembled. "This isn't just about Elena anymore," Daniel said. "They're watching us." Monroe's jaw clenched. "We need to expose them before more lives are lost." The three of them huddled in the shadowy cargo hold, planning their next move. "We can't trust the ship's captain or chief engineer," Monroe said grimly. "But we can use the ship's communication system to send evidence ashore." Marcus nodded. "I know a way to access the external comms from the engine room." Daniel swallowed hard. The deeper they went, the more dangerous this became. Navigating through narrow maintenance corridors, they reached the engine room, a cavernous space alive with the roar of turbines and blinking control panels. Marcus moved quickly to override the security systems, while Monroe kept watch. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind them. Armed figures appeared, blocking the exits. Lucas Brandt stepped forward, face twisted with rage. "You shouldn't have come here," he snarled. "Elena's fate is sealed." With little choice, Daniel, Monroe, and Marcus fought for their lives amid the roaring engines. Sparks flew as Marcus managed to activate the comm system, sending encrypted files to law enforcement on shore. Daniel dodged a blow from Brandt, his desperation fueling his strength. Monroe fired a warning shot, buying them precious seconds. In the chaos, a secret panel slid open, revealing Elena, alive but weakened. Her eyes met Daniel's, a mixture of relief and warning. "I never wanted you to see this," she whispered. "They're more dangerous than you know." Before they could react, the lights flickered and went out, plunging them into darkness. The oppressive darkness clung to Daniel's skin like a shroud. His breath came in ragged gasps as footsteps crept closer through the void, slow, deliberate, unyielding. The voice that whispered in the blackness was no longer distant, but inches away, chilling him to the core. The game has only just begun. Then, suddenly, a faint glow pulsed from the corner of the engine room. Elena's phone, miraculously alive and projecting a dim screen. Her trembling fingers clutched it tightly, as if it were a lifeline. Daniel crawled to her side, relief flooding through his veins. "Hold on, Elena. We're getting you out." Monroe's steady voice cut through the dark. "We can't stay here. We need to move now." They pressed forward into the shadows, guided only by the flickering phone light and their determination. The armed men closed in, relentless, but Daniel, Monroe, and Marcus fought with a desperate courage born of love and justice. In a brutal clash near the emergency exit, Marcus took a bullet, collapsing with a quiet groan. "No," Daniel shouted, dropping to his knees beside him. Marcus forced a weak smile. "Finish this. For Elena. For truth." Monroe nodded grimly and pushed Daniel onward. Emerging onto the ship's upper deck, the first rays of dawn cast a pale light over the sea. The Mariana no longer felt like a luxurious escape, but a floating prison from which they were finally breaking free. Monroe activated her phone's hotspot, sending the encrypted evidence Marcus helped secure to international authorities. Within hours, the Mariana was boarded by Coast Guard and law enforcement. Captain Adrian Cole and Lucas Brandt were arrested, their criminal network exposed. The ship's illegal shipments uncovered, linked to multiple crimes across continents. Elena, though bruised and broken, found sanctuary and protection. Daniel held her hand tightly, the bitterness of betrayal now replaced by a fragile hope. Months later, Daniel sat in a quiet park, reflecting on the ordeal. He had lost a wife he thought he knew, and found a woman he barely understood, someone trapped by fear, courage, and circumstance. Forgiveness was a journey, not a destination. The story of Daniel and Elena's nightmare aboard the Mariana is more than a tale of betrayal and violence. It's a haunting reminder. Trust must be earned, but suspicion can destroy before truth is found. Speak up when something feels wrong. Silence protects the guilty and endangers the innocent. Behind every secret lies a human story, one deserving empathy, courage, and justice. If this story shook you, moved you, or made you think, please comment below your thoughts on the truth behind the Mariana tragedy. Like this video if you believe in shining light on dark secrets. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe for more gripping true crime stories that expose the hidden truths. Your support helps us keep telling these stories, uncovering the silent witnesses who can no longer speak. Thank you for following Twisted Guilts, the Mariana tragedy. Stay vigilant, stay curious, and remember, sometimes the deepest darkness holds the greatest truths.